Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahushai, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahushai. All praise is due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Double honor to the apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to the elect. And this is going to be a video in regards to, this is just going to be me going off in the spirit. All right, this is going to be regards to Drake and Drake and Kanye West. And all these entertainers and also a lot of our people that are behind the scenes that's a part of this whole draconian system, right? Because are um our people were a part of the Holy Roman Empire, and the symbol of the Roman Empire was it's a double-headed eagle, right? Facing the west and then facing the east, right? And this is all also known as a duality, right? So um, like Kanye West, he went to Albania, and Albania, right, is a place that the Israelites ruled during the Dark Ages, right? And Montenegro, right? It means the mountain of Negroes, right? Um, so let's say it says Montenegro, meaning Montenegro is a small mountain country in the southeast Europe, located along the Adriatic coast. The name translate the Black Mountain, right? So we ruled Europe, right? From Russia, um, all over Europe, we ruled, right? Throughout Asia, because Europe was known as, they called because Europe, right, and Asia is really one continent. Elder Malcolm always goes into that. That Europe is really your Asia. It's really one continent. All right. Let me get the scripture. Let's get Deuteronomy 32 and 15. Let me put it in the King James. Deuteronomy 32 and 15. Let me highlight it as well. But Jeshurun, all right. So another name for Jeshurun is Israel. All right. But let's look at the word Jeshurun. Is Yashar one, upright one, a symbolic name for Israel, describe her ideal and character, right? So we are the upright ones, right? The Lord said that we are gods, but we're gonna die like men, right? And that's why, like we lost, our identity. We're in a very low state as a people, right? But the Lord is going to make us stand upright again, following the laws, statutes, commandments, where the law is going to be in the elect, right? Once they get the new bodies, right? That's First Corinthians 15, right? In the twinkling, in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye, the elect is going to be transformed. So Deuteronomy 32:15, but Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked, right? Jake is kicking it, man. Jake is rich. They're very wealthy, right? And a lot of our people, all right, many of our people, a lot of these so-called like this noble bloodline of Jake through America, like Kanye West, like, because Kanye West, his father was a Black Panther, and also they have a lineage that goes back to Masonry. Their family were Masons, right? So a lot of our people, a lot of our people were not in slavery. A lot of them were were Masons, all right, and they were a part of this whole society, right, of the 13 colonies, where where like that King James had the 13 colonies in America, and also here in Canada too, right? It was known as Upper Canada and Lower Canada, right? So a lot of these European kings, they started that whole slavery. Jake, Jake was had shares in setting up these different colonies and basically enslaving, Jake, the tribe of Judah, which was known as known here in the West Africa, where they're known as Wuda or Judah, right? The tribe of Judah, right? Through Benin, which was the tribe of the Benjamin, right? And like Dahomey as well, right? Many of our people were taken captive and brought to the Americas throughout the Caribbean, Central America, North America, and South America, right? And then there were some of our people that were also that were counts, there were dukes, and they're a part of the aristocrats, you know. But that's a whole different thing, right? But Jeshurun wax fat and kicked. Thou art waxing fat. Thou art grown thick. Thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook Yahweh, which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. That's what happened. Our people don't want to our people are not going to our people don't want to worship the Most High because they're already rich, right? Look at like Tyler Perry, you know that guy's house is like one of his house in Georgia is like it's like a damn castle, man, you know, and that's just and like he's like a lower boule, all right, because these guys, a lot of them are Scottish, right, York, right, and Prince Hall Masons, right, that are working with the elite to oppress and keep our people down. Guys like what's his name, Omar Johnson, so-called Dr. Umar Johnson, right, with his whole pan-Africanism that we all came from Africa and all this shit, and all this different stuff. Guys like Tariq Nasheed, saying that the foundation Black American, and you're trying to like separate the like the tribes that are in the West, in the so-called West, like in the Caribbean, in the West Indies. Want to separate. A lot of these guys are bought and paid for, man. Agent provocateurs. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. With abomination provoked they him to anger. Right? And that's what happened with our people. We're in the lowest state. Our people are worshiping, Jebus, or they're worshiping these false gods. Right? Selassie, they're worshiping the whole Egyptology. They're worshiping everything else except the Most High. They're worshiping the damn Arab god, Allah, Alat, they have forsake sacrifice unto devils, not to Yahweh, to God, whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, right, with this whole Renaissance Christianity, whom your fathers fear not, right? And many of our people played a major role in the Renaissance, right, through the Roman Catholic Church, right, because it was that time that Esau had the come to power, right? So there's a lot of family feuds, you know, with the so-called European nobility that were Jake that was in power throughout Spain, Portugal, um, France, England, right, Russia, right. There was a lot of family feuds, right, and a lot of our people they felt. You also had Oliver Cromwell, right, that drove out a lot of the Moors out of Europe. That allowed them they were captured and brought on and were brought to sugarcane plantations, right? Um, because that was like the end of the Stuart legacy, right? So there's a lot of family feuds, internal warfare, and then Esau basically was like mercenaries working on the behalf of Jake that was in power, right? So there's a lot of our people now is still um because because that's why a lot of a lot of our people there are very wealthy, right? Because like they know that they were a part of the Holy Roman Empire, right? You have Jay-Z, right? He's a Knights Templar, right? Like the symbol of the Duce, his cognac is the Knights Temple symbol. Sorry, the Knights Templar symbol, right? So you know they know who they are, but they are agents of Esau, man, right? Of Roman this whole Roman Catholic Church, right? They're high up in the occult, in Masonry. They're very high level, right? So let's get yeah, this is yeah. So this is Montenegro, you know. Um, yeah, let's look at the double-headed meaning symbol in the occult, right? So a double-headed meaning, it says in the occult, the double-headed eagle represents the ultimate reconciliation of dualism and purified spiritual transformation. The two-headed signified the synthesis of material and spiritual realm, while the ego upward fight it says symbolizes the soul's ascent to divine consciousness and God's realization, right? So that's why you have guys like Kendrick Kanye, and Kodak, and what's his name? The basketball player of Kyle, whatever his name is. He's a basketball player, and they all know that they're Israelites, and it's all nothing but a ritual, what they're doing. Um, you know, with the KKK, you know, these niggas, man, because Jake basically set up that whole KKK that they have in America. That was basically set up by the Moors that 1 second, um is it called the order of sorry, what's it called it sorry um the order Negro in Seville, sorry. Yeah, so the Negro Brotherhood of Seville, right? and that was Jake. That was in Europe. That was a lot of them were they were basically with the whole what do they call it? Sorry about that. But basically Jake were they set up these, the whole these Roman Catholic churches, and basically Jake during the Spanish Inquisition, um Jake had the either option to either be killed or to convert to that whole Christianity, right? And go up through through the I guess the degrees of of their whole Luciferian, like their whole like their whole Luciferian or Masonic ideals, right? Or so a lot of them, they had either two or three options. They had to either choose the Christianity or be converted, right? And basically so a lot of people were being hung at the stake. So a lot of our people, they chose Christianity, right? So really that whole thing, it goes back to um because our people were doing that for over 600 years, right? It was called the order. Sorry. um 1 second. Our people were basically doing it for over 600 years, right? And they were sacrificing unto this God, right, which is Yahweh Shai, right? Right, because the Lord said, when he's come, he said that, what do you call it? When he basically the Lord said, when he was on the scene, right, over 2,000 years ago, the Lord said that he has sheep that are not of this fold. So that's referring to the other 10 tribes that was here in the Americas, right? That set up a lot of these societies and pyramids in the Americas, right? So this is the Kolkanen, right? In the feathered serpent deity of Maya mythology, as a god of wind, rain, and storms. He represents the balance between the heaven and the earth, right? So so this is Yahweh Shai. He has he's on the right hand side of the Lord, right? So a lot of these guys are people, they're sacrificing onto um this is Yahweh Shai, right? He's known as the Kolkanen, right? It says basically, like that's what happened. His name is Quetzalcoatl, right? And they were sacrificing, they're sacrificing their own people onto these gods, right? So Jake, they basically they were, like they were going off, by doing all these vain sacrifices. And that's why the the Spanish conquistadors, they came and they destroyed a lot of them. And then a lot of them, many of them were Jake that set up these damn, these colonies and stuff. And then basically Esau was like a mercenary under the Spanish crown, right? But so let me get another scripture. Let's get Revelation 20. So Revelation 21, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit. So the angel is Yahweh Shai, right? And the Lord, he has the keys. So basically, he's the one that sets up kingdoms and destroys kingdoms. So he having the key of the bottomless pit. The bottomless pit is Europe, right? That doesn't have a lot of different. Doesn't have, you know, a lot of resources. So a lot, so basically, like, like that's why a lot of these European um these governments, they basically, they go to Asia, they go to Africa, and they, the Americas to get a lot of different supplies. All right, so having the key to the bottomless pit, which is Europe, and a great chain in his hand. Right, so basically, the great chain was is going to represent servitude, right, with slavery, right. So, and he laid hold on the dragon. So the dragon represents, you know, the Roman Empire, the pagan Roman Empire, that came on the scene, right? That these Edomites was in power, right? That old serpent, right? Which the serpent is the old serpent from the garden, which was a man that deceived Eve, and that made Adam transgress. And that's why we're in this state, because of that old serpent, right? That deceived the Eve and Adam, which is the devil, right? The devil means adversary. Sorry. The devil means deceiver, diablo, and Satan means adversary, right? And bound him 1,000 years. So basically, for 1,000 years, starting from um even before Septimius Severus, but they were known as the holy. Sorry, they was known as the five good emperors that was fighting for power, and basically, like Septimius Severus, he conquered a lot of these other emperors and basically expanded. And then you had um, really starting with the Council of Nicaea, I believe the 300, I think 335 AD or so, the Council of Nicaea, they set up the whole Catholicism, the Roman Catholic Church, and that's what happened. Basically, they, you know, um, they had the icons of the Lord, but a lot of them, they were, that they're Luciferians. They're worshiping these different these different gods. Like Madonna, which is that which represents like Ceramicis and these different pagan gods. But a lot of our people, they were into that, and they civilized Jake. Sorry, they civilized like the Edomites, right? Because a lot of the Edomites was known as the wild men. Like they were in slavery. You know, these Edomites were in slavery, right? And basically, um, Esau was known as a wild man. They were in a very low estate, right? They were in the caves, and the Jakes cleaned them up, right? And educated them. That's why a lot of these different schools, a higher learning, like these universities like Oxford, Cambridge, different universities throughout Europe, throughout Spain, and also Russia. We had a high learning of learning, and civilized these Edomites, man, and cast him to the bottomless pit and shut him up. So Europe, and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more. And that's what happened. So um these Edomites was in a very low estate, but basically Jake, Jake basically, like, cleaned up, these wild men and wild women, and made them be a part of our families and stuff, and we intermarried, with a lot of these Edomites, and basically that's when, that was the beginning of our downfall. And then basically we were having family feuds, right? And then basically Esau rose up to power, um starting with 1453, the fall of the fall of Constantinople by the Byzantine Empire. the Ottoman Turks came. With the Ottoman Turks were they were into that whole Islamic way of life, right? So a lot of the Christians, a lot of them were taken captive, right? And a lot of those Ottoman Turks were Moors, right? That were that was basically, they're known as the barbarian, slave trade, that were Berbers and Moors that were in Morocco and that were into that whole Islam, but a lot of them were Jews, right? So, um, but but that's a whole different thing too, right? So cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nation no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. After that, he must be loose a little season. And so right now, so starting from 1492, right, where the whole Pope Alexander the 6th of Rome, which was had a son named Caesar Borgia, right? They're known as the Borgia family, and basically, a lot of these European kings allowed that, because Esau had to come up to power, right? So basically, a pope, which means father, right? And basically, a lot of the Moors was driven out of Granada and certain parts of Spain, right? Um, but Granada was the last Moorish stronghold, and basically a lot of people had to go to they flee. So some of them, like, they had to go to Morocco, certain parts of North Africa. But some of them who weren't able to flee, they were taken captive and brought into slavery, right? So after that, he must be loose a little season. So we're in the little season right now, right? Over 500 years that these Edomites been in power. All right, but the Lord is going to we're approaching the time that the Lord is going to get rid of the Edomite power, right? And then it's going to be Jake's power, right? It says, for Esau the end of the world, Jacob would begin as begin of it that followeth, right? So we're approaching this time, Revelation 20:4. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that are beheaded for the witness of Yahweh. So basically, like, this was happening right now. All right. Some of us are going to be beheaded. We're going to be tortured. Then some of us are not going to be. Some of us are going to escape, but some of us will be martyrs for the Lord, right? And if we die, as some of us will die as martyrs, but we're going to be the first ones risen up, right? If you're of the elect, right, the Lord is going to raise you up, right? He's going to give you a new body, right? And you're going to rule, right? Which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, right? So we're approaching that time, the mark of the beast, right? Here in Canada, they did like they did an experiment, right? And there's a guy, he's paralyzed, and he's not gonna be able to speak soon, right? Because he has like an illness, right? But basically there are they put in, but they did a experiment right here in Canada, here in Toronto, and they did the Neuralink. So they implanted the Neuralink in his skull. They cut they cut like the top of his skull, right? And his brain is connected with the Bluetooth. So so all of these things are part of his miracles, where he's able to brain hack. He's able to to do all kinds of things, right? And basically, like, this is wickedness, man. Neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their forehead, and in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Yahweh Shai 1,000 years. So so this is after with this whole the MOTB system gonna be rolled out, and that's why they have these data centers everywhere around the world, through America, Canada, all throughout the world. They're building these data centers, and basically, um, the water was going to be polluted. So, water that were, like fresh waters, like rivers and stuff, they're going to be using it for these data centers. So the Lord says, if it wasn't for the elect's sake, no flesh shall be saved. So, like, we're approaching that time. We're in those times. So we need, you know, so basically, like Yahweh Shai, right? The Lord is going to put a monkey wrench in their plans of their new world order, their enterprise, man. You know, you know. Um, yeah, but that's pretty much it. I didn't really want to go too long, but our people, our people know, um, Drake, Kanye, whereas all of these guys know, um, that they are part of this system. They're part of this whole Roman Catholic, um, the Roman Empire, which was set up by Jake, but just represents, that duality, right? With the double-headed eagle, you know. So with that, let us all praise the due to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Kakwadash. Double honor to pass our great milestone. Peace and blessings to the elect. Shalom.